Humans snap when you kill their families, and Logan just snapped. The images of dead children and smoldering homes on the holoscreen burned into Logan's mind. They overlapped with his own memories of finding his wife and son's charred corpses in the ruins of their farm 5 years ago after an Orion attack. Logan hurled his whiskey glass at the screen. It shattered, just like his life had. He downed a handful of stim pills, the drugs barely taking the edge off his all-consuming rage and grief anymore. He'd already lost everything to those scaly Orion fucks. What more could they take from him? His life? Fine. He'd make them work for it. Logan walked to his closet and pulled out his old pulse rifle, not used since the end of his military service. His fingers shook as they curled around the cold metal. Service that had ended with a devastating defeat and a forced treaty, giving the resource-rich Galileo sector to the Orions to stop their assault on helpless outer colonies, an assault that had killed his family and millions of others. The Orions were slavering for more human blood now, using their control of precious helium-3 on Galileo 4 as a stranglehold on Earth's energy supply. The weak-willed Earth Council was bending over backwards to avoid another war, willing to let the Orions butcher more innocents, as long as the power stayed on in their cities and ships. No more. Logan was done letting others fight and die. He would go to the front himself, stare Emperor Tyro in his reptilian eyes as Logan shoved a thermoblade through the scaly bastard's skull. If more Orion blood was what it took to keep humanity safe, then by all the gods Logan would gladly spill an ocean of it himself, even if it cost him his own life too. It was time to show the Orions that when you push humanity far enough, it pushes back. Hard. Logan arrived at the front lines, a hellscape of craters, barbed wire, and the acrid stench of death. He watched a platoon of soldiers trudge by, their eyes hollow and shoulders slumped in defeat. The Orions had been hammering them relentlessly with superior numbers and advanced weaponry. The human forces were in shambles, a far cry from the disciplined, well-equipped army Logan had expected. He stormed into the command tent, startling General Hawkins and his staff. The general was a grizzled veteran with a face etched by years of combat, but his eyes betrayed a weariness that bordered on despair. "What the hell is going on here, General?" Logan demanded. "Our troops are getting slaughtered out there." Hawkins sighed heavily. "The Orions have us outgunned and outmaneuvered at every turn. We're barely holding the line as it is." Logan slammed his fist on the table, scattering maps and data pads. "Then we need to change our tactics. Hit them where they least expect it, disrupt their supply lines, make them bleed for every inch of ground." The general shook his head. "We're fighting a conventional war, soldier. Guerrilla tactics won't win this." "With all due respect, sir, conventional tactics are getting our asses kicked," Logan retorted. "I've fought the Orions before. I know their weaknesses. Let me lead a small team behind enemy lines, strike at their soft underbelly." Hawkins studied Logan for a long moment, weighing the determination in his eyes against the desperation of their situation. Finally, he nodded. "All right, Logan, you've got your shot. Assemble your team and report back for mission briefing at 0600 tomorrow." Logan saluted crisply. "Yes, sir, we won't let you down." He walked out of the tent, mind already racing with plans and possibilities. He knew exactly who he needed for this mission, soldiers with the skills and the fire in their bellies to take the fight to the Orions. First on his list was Sergeant Dirk Gunner McGraw, a bear of a man with biceps thicker than Logan's thighs. McGraw had lost his entire family to an Orion labor camp and had a reputation for being utterly fearless in battle. Next was Corporal Jace Ghost Reeves, a sniper with uncanny aim and nerves of steel. Reeves rarely spoke, but Logan had heard the whispers about how he had single-handedly held off an entire Orion platoon for 2 days straight after his fiancée was killed in a bombing raid. Rounding out the team was Private Zach Rogue Hernandez, a demolitions expert with a penchant for improvisation. Hernandez had a wild streak a mile wide, but Logan knew he would walk through fire to avenge his brother's death in an Orion POW camp. Logan christened their unit the Reapers, a nod to the grim work that lay ahead of them. As they geared up for their first mission, an infiltration of an Orion munitions depot, Logan couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the Orion's attacks than met the eye. The pieces didn't quite fit like a puzzle with the edges torn off. He pushed the thought aside as he checked his rifle one last time. Whatever the Orions were planning, the Reapers would be ready to meet them head-on and make them pay for every drop of human blood they had spilled. The Orions had sown the wind, and now they would reap the whirlwind. The Reapers moved like ghosts through the shadows, striking hard and fast at Orion strongholds. McGraw's minigun chattered, tearing through scaly flesh. Reeves's sniper rifle cracked, dropping Orion commanders with ruthless efficiency. Hernandez's explosives turned enemy fortifications to rubble. Logan felt a grim satisfaction as he watched his team work, but it was tempered by the gnawing sense that they were missing something. The Orions were too well supplied, too coordinated. There had to be more to their plan than simple conquest. The answer came during a raid on an Orion command post deep in the heart of their territory. As McGraw and Hernandez laid down covering fire, Logan slipped into the command center and hacked into their mainframe. His eyes widened as he scrolled through encrypted files, piecing together a horrifying picture. Project Omega, a doomsday weapon that could manipulate the very fabric of the universe, and it was being developed by Tyro's chief scientist, a brilliant but twisted genius named Dr. Zor-El. Logan's mind raced as he downloaded the files onto a data chip. If the Orions succeeded in completing Project Omega, they wouldn't just conquer humanity, they would become gods, able to bend reality itself to their will. He knew what he had to do. Back at base, Logan laid out his plan to General Hawkins. It was a suicide mission, infiltrating Zor-El's heavily guarded research facility on the Orion homeworld. But if they could destroy Project Omega before it was completed, they could turn the tide of the war. Hawkins hesitated, weighing the risks against the potential rewards. In the end, he gave Logan the go-ahead, along with an experimental stealth suit and a miniaturized tactical nuke. Logan said his goodbyes to the Reapers, his brothers in arms. He knew the odds of him coming back were slim, but he had to try. For his family, for humanity, for the future. The insertion onto Rigel Prime went smoothly, Logan's stealth suit rendering him all but invisible to the Orion's sensors. He made his way through the labyrinthine corridors of the research facility, planting charges as he went. Finally, he reached the heart of the complex, a cavernous chamber housing a pulsing shadowy mass that could only be Project Omega. And standing before it, arms outstretched in exultation, was Dr. Zor-El. The Orion scientist turned as Logan decloaked, his reptilian features twisting into a sneer. "You're too late, human," he hissed. "Project Omega is complete. Soon we will ascend to godhood, and your pitiful species will be nothing more than dust beneath our feet." Logan raised his rifle, but Zor-El just laughed. "Go ahead, shoot me, it won't change anything. The process has already begun." Logan hesitated, finger tightening on the trigger. Then, with a snarl of rage, he lowered the rifle and reached for the detonator on his belt. "Ascend to this, you scaly fuck." He thumbed the detonator, and the world went white. The charges he had planted throughout the facility exploded in a chain reaction, tearing through metal and stone. At the center of it all, the miniaturized nuke detonated, consuming Project Omega in a blaze of light and fury. Logan felt a moment of searing agony, then nothing at all as the fire consumed him. His last thought was of his wife and son waiting for him on the other side. Miles away, the Reapers watched in horror as a second sun bloomed on the horizon, a testament to their leader's sacrifice. They bowed their heads in grief, but there was no time to mourn. Logan had given them a fighting chance, and they would not let it go to waste. Using the intelligence Logan had gathered, they launched a series of daring raids on key Orion installations, exploiting weaknesses in their defenses. The Reapers fought with renewed determination, each strike a tribute to the man who had shown them the way. The Reapers fought on, striking deep into Orion territory, but the loss of Logan weighed heavily on them. McGraw's minigun spat defiance, Reeves's sniper rifle sang a dirge of vengeance, and Hernandez's explosives lit the Orion lines with righteous fury. But there was a hollowness to their victories now, a sense that without Logan they were just delaying the inevitable. Then months later a ghost walked into their camp. Logan, his face a patchwork of scars, his eyes haunted by horrors unseen. The Reapers stared in disbelief as he limped towards them, clutching a battered data drive in his hand. "I survived," he rasped, his voice raw from disuse. "Barely. Managed to download some of Project Omega's schematics before the place went up." He handed the drive to Hernandez, his hands shaking. "It's not complete, but it's a start. We can use it against them, turn their own weapon against them." Before the Reapers could process this revelation, alarms blared across the camp. Orion dropships screamed overhead, disgorging squads of elite warriors led by none other than Emperor Tyro himself. The Reapers leapt into action, weapons blazing. McGraw's minigun chattered, cutting down Orions left and right. Reeves picked off the enemy's heavy weapons specialists with pinpoint shots. Hernandez lobbed grenades into the thickest knots of Orions, scattering their formations. But Tyro's warriors were the best of the best, armed with advanced plasma rifles and personal energy shields. They pressed forward relentlessly, shrugging off the Reapers' fire like rain. McGraw fell first, his armor finally breached by a barrage of plasma bolts. He went down fighting, his minigun still spitting defiance, even as his life bled out onto the dirt. Reeves was next, a needle of searing light piercing his helmet and burning through his brain. His rifle clattered to the ground, never to sing its deadly song again. Hernandez fought like a man possessed, hurling explosives with wild abandon. But even he couldn't stand against the onslaught forever. An energy blade sliced through his chest, and he crumpled, his eyes already glazing over. And then it was just Logan and Tyro, facing each other across a field of the dead. The Orion Emperor was a towering figure, his armor adorned with the trophies of 100 conquests. He drew a pair of crackling energy swords and advanced on Logan, his reptilian eyes glinting with malice. Logan met him head-on, his own blades flashing in the smoky light. They clashed in a whirlwind of steel and plasma, their movements almost too fast to follow. But Tyro was stronger, faster, his blows fueled by centuries of genetic engineering. He battered through Logan's defenses, his blades cutting deep into flesh and bone. Logan fell to his knees, blood pouring from a dozen wounds. Tyro loomed over him, his swords raised for the killing blow, but as he brought them down, a battered figure tackled him from the side. It was Hernandez, his chest a ruined mess, his breath coming in bloody bubbles. He clung to Tyro with the last of his strength, his belt of grenades beeping urgently. "For the Reapers," he gasped, his eyes meeting Logan's one last time. "Make them pay." The grenades detonated, and the world vanished in a maelstrom of fire and thunder. When the smoke cleared, Tyro and Hernandez were gone, vaporized in the blast. Logan dragged himself to his feet, his heart heavy with grief and rage. The Reapers were gone, but their mission remained. He would rebuild Project Omega, and he would use it to burn the Orion Empire to ashes. For McGraw, for Reeves, for Hernandez, for every human who had ever suffered under the Orion's yoke. He turned and limped away from the battlefield, the data drive clutched tight in his fist. The Orions had sown the seeds of their own destruction, and now it was time for them to reap the whirlwind. Logan assembled a team of the brightest minds humanity had left. Dr. Meera Patel, a brilliant astrophysicist. Colonel Jared Hawkins, the general's son and a genius engineer. Together, they pored over the fragmented data from Project Omega day and night. They hit wall after wall. The Orion tech was centuries beyond anything they'd seen. But Logan pushed them relentlessly, his eyes feverish with obsession. Sleep was a distant memory, food an afterthought. All that mattered was the weapon. Weeks bled into months. The team worked in secret, hidden in an abandoned asteroid base. Their numbers dwindled as the work took its toll. Some cracked under the pressure, some simply vanished, broken by despair. But the device took shape, a dark matter manipulator, capable of twisting the very fabric of space-time. Logan looked upon it with a mix of awe and revulsion, the power to unmake worlds in the palm of his hand. He knew what he had to do. The message blasted across every frequency, every channel. Logan's scarred face filled screens across the galaxy, his voice a ragged snarl. "Tyro, you took everything from me, my family, my team, my hope. Now I'm going to take everything from you." He laid out his challenge, a final confrontation at the site where it all began. The farming colony where Logan's wife and son had died, where the first shots of the war were fired. "You and me, Tyro. Settle this like warriors, or are you too much of a coward?" The taunt hit home. Tyro's reply came within hours, dripping with disdain. "You dare much, human, but so be it. I will come, and I will finish what I started all those years ago." The Orion fleet filled the sky over the farming colony, hundreds of ships bristling with weapons, a display of power to cow any resistance. At the center of the burned-out field stood Logan, alone, unarmored. In his hands, the Project Omega device pulsed with malevolent energy. Tyro's voice boomed from the flagship, amplified to shake the very ground. "Is this your plan, human? To face me alone with a single weapon? Pathetic." "This weapon is more than enough for you," Logan replied, his voice cold as the void. The Orion ships opened fire, a storm of plasma and missiles. Logan stood firm as the ground exploded around him. Then he activated the device. The effect was instantaneous. A swirling vortex of darkness bloomed in the sky, growing with terrifying speed. Orion ships vanished into its maw, crushed to atoms by gravitic forces beyond comprehension. Tyro's flagship strained against the inexorable pull, engines screaming. On the bridge, the Emperor stared at the singularity in horror. "Stop this madness!" he roared across the comms. "You'll destroy us all!" "That's the idea," Logan said, his voice eerily calm. "Humanity will never know peace as long as your kind exists, so I'm going to wipe you out, all of you." "So, oh fool, it won't just be us. That thing will consume everything, every star, every world." "So then so be it," Logan replied, his eyes reflecting the swirling abyss above. "If we can't have peace, no one will." The singularity expanded, devouring the fleet like a ravenous beast. Logan watched, a smile playing over his lips even as the ground crumbled beneath his feet. The device in his hands shuddered, unable to contain the forces it had unleashed. Logan welcomed it. This was his purpose, his penance. He would be the instrument of humanity's vengeance, even if it meant destroying humanity itself. The singularity raged across the stars, an unstoppable tide of oblivion. Planets crumbled, suns winked out like snuffed candles. The galaxy convulsed in its death throes, the Project Omega device at its heart, the architect of its destruction. And Logan laughed as the darkness took him, a laugh that echoed in the void left behind, a final bitter eulogy for a galaxy consumed by the fires of hate. Eons later, in the cold, dead expanse that was once a vibrant galaxy, a single point of light flickered, a fragile spark in the infinite dark, all that remained of a species that had once dreamed of the stars. A fitting memorial, perhaps, to the folly of vengeance, a warning etched in starlight of the danger of becoming that which you despise. And in that faint, fading glow, the ghost of a laugh echoed still, the last gasp of a galaxy, destroyed by the all-consuming rage of a single man. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.